It is actually happening. The long, drawn-out, protracted transfer saga is actually over. I cannot believe it. Liverpool have agreed a deal to sign Alexander Isak.
Liverpool agree British record 125 mitre fee for Isak. Liverpool have agreed a British transfer record fee of 125 mitre to sign striker Alexander Isak from Newcastle United. Sources close to the deal have told BBC Sport that an agreement for the Sweden international to move to Anfield is now in place. Isak is expected to undergo a medical on Monday before signing a 6-year contract. Liverpool had an original £110 million offer rejected in August, but are now set to land their first-choice target of the summer. The protracted saga involving the 25-year-old appears set to come to an end on the final day of the summer transfer window, and it follows Newcastle having signed striker Nick Woltemade from Stuttgart last week. Liverpool have already broken their club transfer record this summer by signing Germany attacking midfielder Florian Wirtz in a deal worth an initial £100 million, with a further £16 million in add-ons. Isak's arrival would top that outlay. After also bringing in Hugo Ekitike, Milos Kerkez, Jeremy Frimpong, Georgi Mamardashvili, Armin Pexi and Giovanni Leoni, the deal would take the club's spending to about £416 million without add-on fees. Liverpool could still add to the spree, with the Reds working on a deal to sign England defender Mark Guéhi from Crystal Palace. Meanwhile, the departures of Luis Diaz, Darwin Núñez, Jarell Quansah, Coam Kelleher, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Tyler Morton and Ben Doak have recouped an initial amount of about £190 million. Isak, who joined Newcastle in a £60 million move from La Liga side Real Sociedad in 2022, scored 27 goals in 42 appearances across all competitions last season. He helped the Magpies win the Carabao Cup in March with Sen, with the forward scoring as Newcastle beat Liverpool in the final, and they went on to qualify for the Champions League by finishing 5th in the Premier League. Earlier this summer, Isak was left out of the Newcastle squad for their pre-season tour of Asia with what the club described as a minor thigh injury, while it was understood he wanted to explore a move away. He then trained alone at his former club Real Sociedad, before Liverpool's initial bid for him was knocked back by the Magpies. Amid continued speculation about his future, Isak released a statement in which he said promises had been broken by Newcastle and that their relationship can't continue. BBC Sport understands that Isak believed he would be allowed to leave Newcastle if a big club came in for him and offered the right price. Newcastle said that no commitment has ever been made by a club official that Alex can leave Newcastle United this summer. However, a move has now been agreed after Isak remained on the sidelines at Newcastle and missed their opening 3 Premier League games, which included a 3-2 defeat by Liverpool at St James's Park. 25 May, Alexander Isak finishes 2024-25 season as Newcastle's top scorer, with 27 goals in 42 appearances. 19 July, Newcastle boss Eddie Howe says Isak will absolutely be on the club's pre-season tour of the Far East after the Swede missed a 4-0 friendly defeat by Celtic with a thigh injury. 23 July, Liverpool signed striker Hugo Ekitike, who had been linked with Newcastle, in £69 million deal from Eintracht Frankfurt. 24 July, Isak is left out of Newcastle's squad for their pre-season tour with a minor thigh injury. 24 July, Isak expresses desire to explore move away from Newcastle. 28 July, sources tell BBC Sport that Liverpool remain keen on signing Isak, despite the arrival of Ekitike. 31 July, Isak trains alone at his former club Real Sociedad. 1 August, Newcastle reject Liverpool's opening £110 million offer for the Sweden international, and it is suggested the Reds may not continue their interest. 4 August, Isak returns to Newcastle training ground but told to train away from the first-team squad. 8 August, Howe says it is clear he can't involve Isak at Newcastle as things stand. 16 August, Isak not part of matchday squad as Newcastle held at Aston Villa in Premier League opener. 19 August, Isak says promises have been broken by Newcastle and the relationship can't continue, but clubs say no commitment has ever been made to Isak. 30 August, Newcastle announced signing of striker Nick Woltemade from Stuttgart for initial £65 million. September, Liverpool agree £125 million deal with Newcastle for Isak. Liverpool are certainly no stranger to a dramatic transfer window, but few come close to the chaos of deadline day in the 2011 transfer market. Few clubs have experienced a transfer deadline day quite as unforgettable and frenzied as Liverpool's in January 2011. There was a sense of optimism surrounding Anfield despite a disappointing beginning to the 2010-11 campaign under Roy Hodgson, which saw the Reds languish in 7th position come January. However, the deeply unpopular Hodgson was dismissed and replaced by club icon Kenny Dalglish. At boardroom level, FSG had recently ousted Tom Hicks and George Gillett as proprietors. Yet the positive atmosphere was short-lived, as reports surfaced Chelsea were pursuing Fernando Torres, who was one of the club's best-ever strikers of the Premier League era. However, the Spaniard, who netted 33 goals in his unforgettable debut season in the 2007-08 campaign, had grown unsettled at Anfield. Hamstring problems and knee surgery in 2010 had robbed Torres of much of his pace, and he rarely looked capable of replicating the performances from his incredible first season. Whilst his name continued to ring out passionately from the Anfield terraces, the exit of manager Rafa Benitez, with whom he enjoyed a strong relationship, and doubts surrounding the club's ownership situation had caused his focus to waver. Torres attempted to reaffirm his dedication to Liverpool in August 2010, declaring, "My commitment and loyalty to the club and to the fans is the same as it was on my first day when I signed." The dismal displays under Hodgson quickly put an end to that feeling, and Chelsea looked to capitalize on the situation by sending a £40 million bid on January 27. Liverpool knocked back the offer, maintaining their prized forward wasn't available. Just 24 hours later, Torres submitted a transfer request which devastated supporters. Come deadline day, the club accepted a colossal £50 million offer, establishing a fresh benchmark for British transfers and making Torres the world's sixth most expensive player at that point. He penned a 5.5-year contract with the West London outfit, with the switch to Liverpool's direct Premier League competitors damaging his standing at Anfield and ensuring he'd face hostile receptions in subsequent matches. Already preparing for the necessity of a replacement late in the transfer window, Liverpool secured Luis Suarez from Ajax at around 9 p.m. on deadline day in a £22.8 million transaction, making the Uruguayan the club's costliest acquisition. However, they weren't satisfied with just Suarez's capture, feeling they required a Premier League proven forward. Their own transfer record was shattered mere hours afterwards in the final minutes of the January 31st deadline day, as the Reds pulled off a remarkable £35 million swoop for Andy Carroll from Newcastle United. Meanwhile, Dalglish discussed how Carroll could slot into the squad following his remarkable emergence at Newcastle that campaign. The Scot said, "He's a big lad but is very good on the deck as well. He has good feet, he's very strong in the air, and he'll give us a bit of presence up front. He's a little bit different to what we've been used to, but it won't change our principles and philosophies of how we want to play." In total, more than £100 million was splashed out in a single day on 3 forwards. Within a week there was a preview of what lay ahead. Suarez netted on his Liverpool debut against Stoke. Torres floundered in his maiden Chelsea outing, a loss, predictably, to Liverpool, whilst Carroll stayed on the sidelines with a thigh problem. Torres, despite netting a vital goal in the build-up to Chelsea's 2012 Champions League final victory, proved massively disappointing in West London, whilst Carroll managed just 11 goals for the Reds before departing for West Ham. Suarez turned out to be the genuine successor to Torres, netting 82 goals in 133 outings, including 31 in his final campaign, before joining Barcelona in 2014.